guys, welcome to the Author's Porch, where every good conversation starts. We are so blessed and favored to be here. I am CJ, your host, and we have the lovely Anastasia as our co-host. How you doing, Anastasia?
I'm doing good, CJ. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I am so excited. We have Krissy Regan all the way from Australia with us tonight. How are you doing, Krissy?
I'm good. It's morning time here, so thank you for having me in your evening time.
Yes, right before we got online, Chrissy asked me, she says, "Hey, did you have your tea yet?" And I thought for a minute, then I was like, oh, right. I was stationed in England, so I knew what that meant. I was like, yes, I had my dinner. So it was great to listen to some of those familiar things from the time that I actually did travel to a few places way before the pandemic. So it was nice to kind of relate in that way.
Yeah,
Guys,
upper time.
yeah. It's so great to connect with our international friends and have that connection, knowing that. And we were also talking about Chrissy is in Australia right now physically, but she's also in Chicago and Texas. And me and Anastasia get to be in Australia. Did you know you was going to Australia tonight,
I
Anastasia?
did not know I was going to Australia. I
Hey,
didn't pack enough clothes.
we are international, baby.
Yes.
I love it. And so, guys, I want to introduce you a little bit to Chrissy and kind of give you a little bit more information before we let her give us some more information about herself, because I know a little bit, but obviously she knows a lot more. I'm trying to be funny tonight. I don't know if it's working or not. But anyway, so I connected with Chrissy through many messages and stuff, and I had a little bit of time to kind of look into her background and look at some of the things that she has accomplished in her life, and I was just floored. My chin just dropped on the floor. I was like, seriously? Chrissy is known as the wellness poet, and she does poetry. She writes books. She has performed at the Special Olympics in Australia. She has been on stages all over the world, and now she has settled down just a little bit, not all kinds, but just a little bit. And we were talking before we went live. Chrissy has two beautiful children that she is the mother to as well, and that she is. We were talking about school and all that lovely stuff. So Chrissy, later on in the show, we also talked about, she has a poem on her website that really struck me for kind of the place that the world is in right now and us as individuals that I want to read later in the show. But I want to hear more about your journey to where you got to right now and your author journey, as well as I want to learn more about that special, not yeah, more about the Special Olympics, because I was like, how did you get there? Because I mean, I'm trying to get on that level.
Yes, amazing.
Oh well, it was the Sydney 2000 Olympics, so it was 20 years ago now, and I was a performer in the opening ceremony along with some of my friends, and it was an awesome night to be on the stage. And I have to say, it's the best night of my life, actually.
Wow.
Much more fun than the two times I was blessed to become a mum. That was painful and excruciating, not so memorable for good reasons. But the night I ran onto the stage at the Sydney Olympics was the greatest night of my life, and I still get goosebumps when I think about it. So it was very special.
And
Um, and it was just by chance, I think in my life I've seen opportunities and I've just taken them. I guess some people call me an action taker. So I don't shy away from taking action, and I don't shy away probably from intention setting. If I feel like I would like to do something, then I find a way to do it. And I didn't realize some things about myself last year. As someone, they did my Chinese astrology chart, which showed me the different layers of my personality and who I am as a person. And I always knew I was born in the year of the rabbit, which is 1975, but I didn't know I was born on the day of the rat. So which was last year, was the year of the rat. So I'm a naturally very busy and inquisitive person, and I find a way to get things done. So it was
mm,
really interesting to have that shown to me on paper, because I think, oh yeah, that kind of, I can see now how I am the way I am throughout my life and why I've done things that I've done, and I've found a way to kind of make things happen. So that was an interesting experience.
You know, that sounds, when you say you're very busy and getting things done, that sounds a lot like me and Anastasia, right? Because if you ever look at our Facebook pages or ever have a conversation off the porch with us, me and her are usually often in each other's inbox about this, that, or the other, and having conversations and even posting about the many different things we're getting into. So we definitely understand you about that because sometimes doesn't it feel like you have to, not have to, but like you're compelled like on the inside because you it's like I feel like there's so many things I want to do in this world and I feel like if I just sit down I'm not going to get them done. Do you ever feel that?
Yes, absolutely. Like, but also I recognize now that my mum coined a phrase for me. I was either flat out or flat out. So
Oh,
I was working a million miles at a pace at a million miles an hour, or I was flat on my back, exhausted. And I've learned from that over
that's good.
time. I now know how to adapt and modify when I'm starting to feel my energy drain, but also I'm aware now when my energy is high and when I'm feeling good and I can make stuff happen really quickly. And I think that's what's enabled me to publish 2 books in 2020, because I used my energy to support me when I was, in those moments of flow. And since I've regained good health and wellness, I can easily go into flow state when I want to create something, which is very powerful as well. And I really want to thank you guys for inviting me because, it's so nice to connect with people all over the place who have shared values and shared interests and who want to kind of share the work of others. And I really, really am grateful for that. So thank you.
You're
You're
welcome.
welcome.
We love to have people that want to share their journey, want to share, you know, the triumphs and also the hard times as well, because we all know that it's not easy. It's not easy to follow your dreams. No matter how confident of a person you are, there's going to be doubts at times, and there's going to be people that aren't going to believe in you, and that's okay because not everybody, like I tell people often, not everybody is meant to go where you're going, right? Your books, tell me about, you have a children's book and then you have Unbroken to Unbroken, right?
Broken to Unbreakable, yeah. So Broken to Unbreakable was my first book, which I published last year. And it's a self-help, health and well-being book. And then off the back of that, there was an opportunity and a moment of inspiration, and I wrote my children's book, which came out in November. So that's this one, A Koala Who Lost His Heart. And
Okay.
it's a children's book, and it talks about a young koala who loses his family in a bushfire, and obviously he's very sad and lonely, but he discovers how to love himself, take care of himself, and find friendship and the power of self-love, and supporting others. So it's a kind of a journey, a transformational journey for a koala through the eyes of a child.
That's sweet. I love that you stay true to your country's native animals and the things that are very realistic in what is going on, kind of what had already went on as well. I know there was a lot of devastation in the past years, recent years, what has happened over there. So thank you for some of the things that you are bringing into that book and some of the realism that people are going to connect with.
Thank you. And I love koalas, but it's what's interesting about this process for me is I've done a lot of readings at schools and libraries and things, and fundraising events for koalas. And I say to children, who loves koalas? And everyone puts up their hands. And I say, who loves their mummy and daddy? And everyone puts up their hands. And I say, who loves themselves? And most children don't put up their hands.
That breaks my heart just
I
thinking
know,
about
I
that.
know. And I've more and more and more times I've done these, and in my own journey for, health and wellness, I had to start to understand the importance of self-love and practice it. Because for me, growing up as a child, you're told not to love yourself, not to big note yourself, not to boast about your experiences, and so I've kept my, the website that you talked about where it shows my accomplishments was immensely uncomfortable for me to put that together because I don't want to be talking about, you know,
Yeah,
myself at rock star kind of a way. It's not natural for me because I've had that beaten out of me as a child and as a teenager, particularly. So I can see how my journey to rediscover my self-worth and my value and my, how I see myself in the world has had to rapidly evolve. And I've had to unlearn a lot of conditioned behaviors and beliefs and self-sabotage and my internal critic in order to now become the person that I am. And I see that a lot also with children. And I don't want my children to, I want to be the person that breaks the cycle for kids so that they grow up feeling self-worth, they grow up feeling self-love. It's not something that they have to learn in their 40s.
Yeah, and I think that, Anastasia is great at this because I watch her a lot of times. And Anastasia, if you don't mind me telling your age range.
It's fine. It's fine.
Okay. Anastasia's in her 20s.
Right.
So and so she's a boss. Like, she will tell people, look, this is what I have for you. And I love that because I'm in my 40s and I'm very introverted and being able to talk about myself. I do these podcasts to lift other people up because I know the struggle that I have with them myself. And when I was thinking of who am I going to ask to be a co-host with me, I was like, I need her energy. Like, I need somebody that is always about knowing their self-worth and not having to get, sorry, my dogs are going crazy, about to go crazy, not having to grab onto somebody else. Like, I seen that she stood on her own 2 feet, and she wasn't scared to promote herself and to let people know what she had. And that's why I picked her as a co-host. But you're absolutely right. Those of us older generation folks, it was kind of told to us not to, don't do stuff like that because you look like you're conceited, or you think of yourself too much, and it was very frowned upon. and and I love that you're teaching your kids to think more of themselves, because that's what we're telling our kids as well. And I know Anastasia wrote a children's book, Mom, I'm Being Bullied. And in her book, because I read her book, it talks about how the mother tells her son, tell me everything and think more of yourself and stuff like that. And I think this is what's needed in children's books today is, yes, be humble, but you can stand up and be amazing and let people know how amazing you are. And that is one of the reasons why, we created the author's porch, is because we want to give everybody that platform, even the ones that it's hard for them to talk about themselves. It's hard for them to, like you said, put yourself out there like a rock star, but you are a rock star.
Right.
And so we'll do it for you. Don't worry about it. We'll do it for you.
Yes.
So it's important that for the ones that don't have that voice the way, people in Anastasia's generation do, that confidence or whatever it may be, we wanted to portray that here on the porch. And that's why we have the two different generations, and we have the two different personalities. Obviously I'm more outspoken, but as long as it's not about me. If it's about me, I get real quiet. So tell us more about your book, Broken to Unbreakable. I'm really interested in that one because we talked a little bit about it before we went live.
Yes. So in 2019, in January 2019, I had recognized for myself that I was in a bit of a health crisis and I wanted to do something about it. And the only decision I made in January 2019 was that I wanted to become healthy because I wanted to be around for my children. That was the first decision I had to make. And I didn't set any goals. I just decided my intention is to be healthy. And little by little, opportunities and things started unfolding for me in a pretty amazing way. And I started journaling and I started writing poems for the first time in probably 15 years. And I started doing things to kind of recognize that my self-care had been very poor for a long period of time. I'd been living contrary to my values. I'd been compromising my health for others. And I had been, really probably in some ways abusing myself because I didn't have self-worth and self-love, to be honest. So once I started to understand that, which is a pretty painful experience to go through, as you can imagine, when you recognize that you've actually been doing yourself damage, but at the same time wondering why no one's there to help you,
Mhm.
I started to think a lot about that. So I started writing in my journal, and actually I have it here. I'll quickly show you. It was called my No Bad Days journal, because
That's
I
cool.
was very guilty of saying to people, "I'm having a really bad day," you know,
Yeah,
the whole day
we
would
all
be bad.
have them.
Yeah, I know. And so after a little bit of journaling time, and the other funny thing that when I was drawn to this book, and in the inside it says, "Let your light shine." And when I opened it and I saw that, I thought, this is for me. I need this. And so I bought this book and I started writing in it. I wrote down my 12 steps here, was literally in the first 15 pages of my new journal. And so I started living those 12 steps in 2019. So in January, February, so on and so forth, all the way throughout 2019, I lived those steps. And initially, I was just doing my healthcare plan for myself. But what transpired probably by the middle of that year was I started to realize there's something in this. It's working. You know, my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health, everything had improved rapidly. You know, all my blood tests were normal after having been chronically ill. Like, a lot of stuff happened for me.
Mhm.
So I thought, I need to write a book. And I have always enjoyed writing poetry. I have always liked writing short stories and stuff, but that had not been my career path. I'd written a lot of articles online for business communities, so on and so forth. And I always tried to add like the creative, twisty spin. I started studying sports journalism as a teenager and again, it gave it up. So um, it was interesting then. So by the August of 2019, I thought to myself, well, August is about adventure, and what is the biggest adventure I could embark on? And I decided that that adventure was to write my book, which now I'm getting emotional. But it's not just about writing the book. It was about, like, how can I recognize what I want my life purpose to be? And how can I walk up to people who've never met me before and introduce myself and say, hi, I'm Krissy, I'm a writer.
Mm.
And at that exact moment, within a few weeks, this interesting story, who I'm sure you know, Paulo Coelho, who wrote The Alchemist.
Mm.
Um, you know the book, The Alchemist?
Yes.
So it's the most read book on the planet. And when he was a teenager, his parents 3 times put him into a mental institution for wanting to be a writer. Now, my parents didn't put me into a mental institution, but, you know, I was not necessarily ever fully encouraged to follow my passion of being a writer. And an English teacher, in fact, once told me a story I wrote was quite boring in front of the entire class. So
Mm.
it was not really something that I felt that I had the skill or the ability to put out into the world.
Right.
So when I kind of started to unpick a little bit of that for myself, I thought, okay, you know what, if I want to be a writer, I need to put myself out into the world. I need to show up for my ambition. I need to show up for my adventure, and I need to practice, and I need to put my work out there. And so by August, I had already written a lot of poetry in this journal, and I had read it only to a few people who liked it. And so I thought, right, I'll create a page for my poetry. And then I started writing the book, and I launched the book live on Facebook, which was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, in February last year in 2020. So that's a bit of the journey.
You know, it is very scary when you know that you have the ability to do something so amazing and the possibility to change people's lives, and nobody around you is supportive or paying attention, but you still feel it right here. So I want to say thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your wonderful ability and your need and compassion to help other people do what you've done, which is from broken to unbreakable. I mean, all of us, I think everybody has been there at some point in their life. We've struggled through a part of our life, and when you were telling that story about the teacher, my story was a little bit different. I had a teacher say, "Well, you wrote a good story. You should do more," but I didn't think enough of myself because of the environment that I was in at home, where everyone told me I wasn't smart, I wasn't enough. So I just never pursued it, and I went on the rest of my life to believe that as well, until finally I just said, tired of feeling this way, and I wrote it, and I see some of Anastasia's posts sometimes about, you don't have to support me, I can support myself, type of stuff, like, and I love that, and I'm like, yes, honey. Oh, and when I see those, and I don't know if she realizes how much motivation she gives people like me, because when I see those posts, I'm like, that's right, because it usually is on a day where I'm feeling like there's nobody out there paying attention, nobody cares. I'm trying so hard, and no one even looks at anything I do, and then I see a post like that, and I'm like, you got it. That's right. You know, it's those journeys like yours, Krissy, and Anastasia, that allows the rest of us to keep going. So thank you so much for publishing that book, because there's going to be somebody that is going to touch in a place that they're going to follow their dream because of it. So it takes one person to follow their dream, so the next one can, so the next one can, and so on and so forth. um, if you don't mind, I would love to read one of your poems. I was going through your website and I was reading your poems, and one of them really struck me, and I think it's very fitting for today and tonight, if that's okay with you.
Thanks, thank you.
Okay, the sum of you. The sum of you is hard to measure. It's the total expanse of your pain and pleasure. It's the tiny details from your hearts to your nails, and all the interactions and distractions you've had on your trails. It's your past, your present, and your future, the untold stories you've tried to suture. It's your hopes and dreams, conquests and schemes, your loves, your losses, your friends and bosses. It's the truth inside that only you know, where doubters, haters, and healers can't go. Inside your soul is where it starts, a map and key to the sum of your parts. Only you can unlock it, only you can block it. Let it grow, let them know you are more than the sum of your parts. It is so
Wow.
beautiful, right? Right? Like when I read that on the site, I took a few minutes and just sat there and let those words resonate in me and just think about that. You're not everything that everyone's ever told you you are. You are what you choose to be. And I'm glad that you chose to be a writer, because you're enriching people's lives, and you're also a life coach. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that with us before we don't take up your whole afternoon? Because I'll talk forever. We
I
all
can't
do
speak
that.
now because I've never had one of my poems read back to me. So thank you for that.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and I think that your poetry is something that is going to touch lives if more people would just read it and pay attention to um, the levity, the real, the heaviness of those words, and not heavy in a bad way, heavy in a good way, a way that, if you really listen to the meaning, they will speak to your entire life.
Thank you very much. I wrote that poem for my book launch, and I wrote it on the plane on the way to Melbourne when I launched my book live, because I thought this is such an emotional process writing a book. So I'm sure you girls would agree with that. And
Yeah.
you've got to go to some painful places to write a book that you put your heart and soul into.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, like a year later, I still find myself crying at the traffic lights some afternoons at 2 o'clock. And I'm thinking, what's going on? It's funny because I'm now allowing those emotions to come to me more readily, as opposed to trying to suppress them. Oh, don't be so emotional, Chris. It's like, no, it's okay. And that poem isn't included in my book, but it's actually been one of the most fulfilling pieces of work I've done, because it's allowed me to recognize that, yes, I did have things that was holding me back. I wasn't, living to my true potential, and the, haters and doubters and healers, not even your parents or your siblings or your partner knows your true potential.
Yes.
So true.
Say that again.
And realizing that for myself, I realized that for my two young girls. And so I don't want to limit their potential. I don't want to tell them what they can and can't do in their life. I don't want to tell them what jobs they should have and what they should study, because their soul will resonate with, you know, the people that they're meant to align with. And I really want to, now in my 40s, I'm not scared what people think of me, because I'm my own harshest critic. There's nothing that you can say to me that I haven't already said to myself. So it doesn't matter. So all I need now to realize is to not to allow my doubts and my fears and anything to allow my soul to give to the world in the way that I feel that it can do that. And no one knows that except me.
Yeah.
So therefore it's like your post, you know, I'm doing, you know, it's like, you know, you inspire the hearts of others when you follow your passions. And I just really want to demonstrate that and to role model that, because if I'm following my passion, then if I do inspire other people, then that's great. And but I'm not going to block myself, and I need to unlock my true potential. So that's what the poem's about.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, it's funny. You know, you talk about inspiring your children as well. I tell my kids all the time, if they complete their bachelor's degree, I'm going to have to go further than them, because I'm not about to let them pass me up in no degree. So it's funny how we, as a parent, because we've all got kids, it's funny how we're like, okay, well, I did this, you know, and you tell them, and then they're like, okay, well, I'm going to do that too. And you're like, oh, no, you didn't. I'm going to have to go here. So I'm just going to have to say, okay, you write a book.
Right.
Then you could get on my level. So if you could say one thing to anybody out there that is having self-doubts, wants to be an aspiring author, anything, what would be the one piece of advice that you give to somebody out there in the world that you think that they could really take to heart and maybe create a better future for themselves?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. It's probably hard to articulate like in the right way. For me, I feel that everyone has a story to share that will help someone just like them. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, something that's nearby is someone just like me. That's a line in my book, because that, you know, your story might not be exactly the same as me, but nearby is someone else just like me. So that's the first thing. So know that you would be helping someone just like you. If you go to the deepest part of your pain and unlock it, you tap into your greatest gift. And I think we spend so much effort and energy suppressing our pain, we don't allow our gifts to rise to the surface. So I no longer want to suppress my pain. I want it because I want my gift to rise to the surface. And I think with a lot of authors who have that gift, or people who have a story that they want to share, if they allow the pain to rise to the surface, then their gift will magically appear for them. And so that's kind of what I want to say to people. And, you know, you don't need to be an English literature major. I'm a storyteller. I'm not so good at editing.
Yes,
Right,
I
that's for the
agree.
editors. That's for the editors.
Yes.
I make mistakes, you know, and sometimes someone will read something and goes, "Is that what you mean?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, that makes sense to me."
Yeah.
but but this is the thing, you have to just use your own words to be a storyteller for a message that's true to you. And I think if you're trying to create something, like I've got 2 half-written chick lit novels sitting on my computer. I want to be the next Carrie Bradshaw and be a chick lit novelist, you know, like I see my life as the Sex and the City literature writer. So, you know, I thought I'm the next Marion Keys. And I think I even said that to an agent once, and they're like, piss off. So, the book that was probably most inside of me that needed to come out was this self-help, health and well-being book. And I feel now that I've unlocked my purpose and my gifts are rising to the surface, that it is that, you know, that health and well-being space, that self-love, self-worth, and not self-sabotaging, and just saying to yourself every day, I'm enough just as I am. I don't need to come onto this show to try and impress either of you, because you're enough and I'm enough, and we're here and we're talking, and that's enough. And just showing up is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. I absolutely love that. And Chick Lit, we have one of our resident Chick Lit lovers, Nicole. You should definitely collaborate with her. She came on our show before, and I just had her, I was talking with her. She's the one we did a full hour last Saturday on my other podcast. You should definitely talk with her, because she is chick lit writer, and you guys could collaborate and talk about chick lit, and she's phenomenal. You would absolutely love her. So Nicole Paquin, you should reach out to Krissy Regan. You two need to get together, because she writes a book, and it's Sex in the City meets Bridget Jones' Diary. You two could definitely have some good conversations. Anastasia, do you have any questions for Krissy before we wrap up the show, or any advice for anybody that is kind of having any doubts?
No particular questions. Like Krissy said, we're enough. No matter what you're doing, no matter if you feel like someone's not supporting you or whatever the case may be, you're still enough. Do it anyway.
Yeah.
I
And
wanted to
go ahead.
sorry, we talked about that, those people, I call them the face makers, that when you say, oh, I'm writing a book, like, you're writing a book?
That's the
And
face.
yeah, and I think now that I've seen the face makers towards myself lots of times, and I've had people say to me, "Oh, I'm working on a book," and I go, "Oh, have you met many face makers yet?" And I
I'm gonna
laugh
use
about
that.
it because, those face makers are really hurtful. But equally, I think to myself, the face makers, A, you'll prove them wrong. B, they don't know the sum of your parts, and C, just avoid them. Work on your product, do your product, put it out into the world the way you want to sell it or the way you want to share it. And then sometime in the future, the face makers will be like, oh, like, you just don't need to surround yourself with face makers. And if you've got face makers in your life, just move house or something, it's like, that's, or just don't share with them. Just keep
Yep.
yourself safe from those face makers, because they can impact you, unfortunately.
Yeah, the
Yes.
negative energy can definitely impact you in ways that you didn't imagine. Especially if you're writing a book, it could deter you from writing, all type of different things. So I try to stay away from people like that. And if I feel like if I tell you, hey, I just wrote my 16th book and I'm watching how you making faces because I wrote 16 books and you didn't, we have the same 24 hours. So you have the same time that I have. You may have kids just like I have. You may have a 9 to 5 just like I have. I figured out a way to manage my time. You can do the same thing. So there's no need for you to make faces. If that's the case, you know what? We shouldn't do this, but we can reverse the roles. We're going to make faces when they tell us they can't make time to write a book. That's what we're going to do from now on. We're making faces back.
when when Anastasia said when she says I just wrote my 16th book, this is a face I that's my face. That's a face I give. I don't do that. I just, like, I need to catch up. Like here I am, no kids at home, and I can't even write that fast. Like, you got 2 small kids working a full-time job and a brand new fiance, and I still can't write that fast. I ain't got no kids at home. That's the face I give. But if you're looking for motivation, if you're looking for somebody to show you what motivation looks like, Anastasia, what's the name of your group that you have on Facebook?
Be yourself.
Just look for Be Yourself, connect with Anastasia here, and she'll show you what motivation looks like, because she's not playing around, you guys. 16 books, 2 small children at home, working a full-time job outside of the house most of the time, and a brand new fiance.
That's
So
virtual fist bumping.
It's fine.
yes, yes. So Krissy, do you have any shout outs you want to give before we end for the night?
Uh, who would I love to shout out to? I think as much as people can hold us back, sometimes help can come from hidden places, can't it? Or sometimes, you kind of, you overlook the people who might be supportive of you in your own backyard because you don't want to share with them. So, there's a couple of people who have come out of the woodwork to be immensely supportive to me in my writing journey, and I'm really grateful for that. Providing money to help print my books, which is immensely expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be supportive and to share my work. There's been so many people over the last 12 months, and I'm so, so grateful for the people that are supporting my work both here and abroad, because I feel that it does give you confidence. It does know that your message is helping people, and they don't have to do it. And so every day when someone shares something of mine, or tells me about their book, or I see a little royalty payment for $20 coming into my bank account, I just send out a little blessing to the
Yeah,
universe. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Guys, we are so blessed, Krissy, that you came on the show tonight. You left me in a better place today than I was yesterday, that's for sure. It's always great talking to and connecting with new authors. Even though you wrote a book a year ago, you're new to me. And I'm so glad that I came across you because that poem hit my heart in a place that I definitely needed to hear. Everyone go out and check out Krissy's website, thewellnesspoet.com. She has all kinds of things on there. You can link up with her for life coaching. There's all her books are on there. You'll see her poetry and different things that Krissy does in her daily life, stuff like that. You can also go and follow Anastasia. Her links are on here. Author Anastasia. She just published a new book, when paths cross. Let me get my words out. And we also have our website, theauthorsporch.com, where you can sign up to our email newsletter. And all of the authors that come on the porch, we have a page just for them so that you can go on and see their work. We're going to keep all their work on that page. So every author that comes across the porch, we're going to make sure we have a spot for them to showcase the work that they do. So every time they send a new book, excuse me, promotional flyer, we're going to make sure we put it up on our page so that people can go and find the authors that come across the porch. We are sponsoring the Truths We Hide podcast because it is a mental health podcast. Army veteran Annette Wittenberger, she has been doing this for 3 years now, and she brings people on the show and they talk about mental health, and it is such an important excuse me, it's such an important topic. It's such an important thing in our world right now that we talk about mental health issues. We talk about supporting people that have mental health issues. And I thought it was very fitting to sponsor that podcast and be a part of that world with Annette Wittenberger, who is also a veteran. She served 17 years in the Army and she retired, and she is also a military spouse. Currently, her spouse is still on active duty. And what her podcast does, The Truths We Hide, is it talks about the things that a lot of folks don't want to talk about because they struggle with different things. Depression, anxiety, it's something that I deal with every single day as well. So I thought it very fitting after we talked about those, people not supporting us and going through those things in our life that we have to overcome so that we can, accomplish our dreams. Her podcast is saving a lot of lives out there. So you guys will see a lot of things about that sponsorship coming up, and a mental health summit over on veteransocial.com. There's a mental health summit on the 3rd of April that they will be putting on. If anybody wants to go and be a part of that, go over and check them out. Ryan Hunt is the CEO of Pando Media, and he is putting that on with Richard Kaufman and Annette as well. So with all of that said, that was a mouthful. We are going to end the night. We are so thankful for this platform to bring authors and talk to amazing people from all over the world. And I'm so glad that I got to visit Australia. It seems very warm with the sun shining over there. Yes. With you, Krissy. And I didn't even have to get my passport. I didn't have to pack. I didn't have to get jet lag or nothing. So thank you again, Krissy. We will definitely stay in touch. And we will see you another time. You guys have a great night. We'll see you. Bye.